How's it going, everyone? Welcome to our third episode of the David Lamb Reviews Shoe Podcast, videocast, whatever we're doing here. I'm Tony.
I'm David.
And today I thought it'd be fun to talk about the different parts of a shoe. I noticed from our last two episodes that David was saying a lot of really great words on shoe things, and I didn't honestly get them all, and I want to make sure we're clear with our audience too. If you're curious about what midsole, Vibram, Dynama, all those words are. So I'm gonna have David talk us through the different parts of a shoe and what to expect when looking for shoes, and also how things came to be the way they are. So David, what are we looking at here, and why don't you take me through kind of the different parts of it?
Yeah, sure. This is Brooks Cascadia. It's actually kind of one of the first trail running shoes that, I think the Cascadia 17, so it's been around 17 iterations. The cool thing about trail shoes in general, I think when they started, it used to be like hiking shoes. So these huge bulky shoes that are like not comfortable, but you kind of needed the outsole and the lugs because like you found yourself on the kind of varying terrain, and like you need something like bite the trail a little bit. And then through the evolution, people were like running a lot of trail stuff with road shoes because it was like they're more lightweight. And then over time, I think there's been a cross section of those things now, where it's like there's shoe companies like Kraft where they'll definitely put a road shoe onto a trail kind of outsole and call it a trail or a hybrid shoe. And the problem with that is like road shoes use very light materials on top, so like they'll blow out really easily. The durability is not as good. But yeah, I think the makings of a shoe. So you have what this is called the upper. A lot of the materials that are here are called overlays, and that kind of adds to the structure of the shoe, but also adds to the durability of the shoes, because like the seams of the midsole, this is the midsole, it's usually made of like some kind of blend of like EVA, which is like a rubber, and it's kind of lightness becomes important, and also durability becomes important, because if you start wearing a shoe long enough, this is kind of where you feel it the most. This stuff starts flattening out. So a lot of shoe companies are working with different materials and different blends to make it more durable. But what I was saying is that this area, it's kind of where shoes blow out a lot. So it's kind of important. A lot of shoes companies put these overlays there as a way to kind of secure that area.
So it's like reinforcing this area.
Exactly.
Usually. Okay.
They call it reinforced overlays for that reason.
Okay.
And the reason why that's important is because like on trail running versus road running, you're kind of just one plane of motion. With the trails, you're always jumping off rocks and off camber, and so like your foot can literally be running like this at this angle or this angle for miles, which means that every time you push off, you're pushing against the shoe. So it becomes less durable. And I think what's really important, also, you have a pull tab, eyelets, obviously those are standard. A lot of shoe companies will kind of play around with that. It just, if you can get the eyelet patterns correctly, which eyelets are just the holes, it kind of adds to the fit of the shoe. And then you also have stuff like, the tongue, which, sometimes it's made as one piece. So it kind of hugs the foot differently. Sometimes this piece just kind of...
Doesn't all twos had that, where it was like the tongue is part of like the...
Exactly. But even like for, call it this shoe, it has like the inside of it, it's almost like a half a sock in there.
Yep.
So yeah, and then I think what, kind of the most important part for a lot of shoes, it's the outsole.
Especially for trail running shoes, I'm sure.
Exactly. It's like, this is kind of what differentiates the trail shoes from the road shoes. It's just outsole material. A lot of companies have their own proprietary rubber that they use. A lot of companies use Vibram. And because Vibram's like tested, and you partner with a shoe, or you partner with Vibram, and you're ensured that they're going to put out a quality product. But yeah, I think this is kind of important because on trails, you're running up steep rocks, steep dirt, or just on dirt and different rock and terrain. So like to have this grip onto it, it's really important because you don't find yourself stepping on and slipping out, and pulling your hip flexor or something like that. But yeah, I think that's kind of the skeleton of a shoe. a lot of the shoe companies have what are called last, and that if you're familiar with like cobblers, they
I'm not familiar with cobblers.
Yeah. So like a last essentially is like it looks like a fake foot.
Okay.
And
yes,
it's
I know.
a mold. It's a
Okay,
mold. So
yes.
yeah, and it costs a lot for these shoe companies to make the mold. And so like a company like Ultra, they had to build a new mold because their shoes are foot shaped. And on top of that, they built a last for women's feet, which women have higher arches, kind of narrow heels and stuff like that. But yeah, so a lot of these companies will put these shoes out and their new models go by every which name, but it's kind of built on a handful of lasts. So they will generally feel about the same.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that's why, or I didn't know all the shoes kind of are built around one or two.
Yeah, for the reason is because like at some point, the consumer will know shoes based on like, they're like, oh, that feels like a Hoka. And it's because they have a set amount of last because again, it costs us a lot to make.
Interesting,
And so,
okay.
And these shoe companies don't always want to kind of commit that much resources to like fix something that's not necessarily broken. So yeah, I think understanding that's important because a lot of these shoe companies, they come out with new shoes every season, but it's on a similar last, but then a lot of the upper materials, a lot of like small little changes are just made on the outside of the shoe, but the feel of it generally is.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Sweet. Anything else you'd like to say about this shoe or shoes, the makeup of shoes?
Yeah, I honestly, I love where trail running shoes are now. I think it's a really exciting time, and for a gear and shoe enthusiast like me, it's just kind of fun to like put some cool stuff on your feet. When trail shoes were starting, or when trail running was like really growing in popularity, a lot of people they're just putting on road shoes, and which is fine, it works, but now there's just things that are very kind of particular to trail shoes, like putting double boas on trail shoes to lock down the foot. It's like you can't really do it for road shoes because when you're running, say, a road marathon, you want a really lightweight shoe that goes fast, and you're out there for 2, 3, 4 hours, so you're not there for a very long time. So weight becomes more important, but with trail shoes, I think durability becomes more important, stability becomes more important, and you could the weight is like not as important, so you can kind of play around with more materials, and that's kind of where and it's really fun because there's some trail shoes that are like have really deep lugs, look amazing, and they're incredibly lightweight, and you're like, how are you doing this? Like, what kind of then that's where shoe technology is at. It's like they're just coming up with these different foams and different like kind of materials that are just like both light, durable, and just perform so well. And so like I think it's a great time to be alive if you're like kind of a gear enthusiast like I am.
Yeah, it only gets better, I feel like, every year.
Yeah.
I had maybe the 13s of Cascadia. It was like my first trail running shoe. And I loved them. And now it's on 17, and the colors are even better, and like the style is cool. Like, it's so much bit different,
The problem with Brooks is they've their biggest accusation, I guess, is that they use a lot of boring colors. So I'm glad, they're starting to use more bright colors that pop a little bit. But still using grays, still using blues.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't want to say, for a lack of a better word, they're boring, but there's other shoes that are just like all orange and then all green or something like that.
Which is funny because they're like Ghost road running shoe is like you can get them in any style, any color, patterns. Like you get like St. Patrick's Day themed.
Yeah, but you take like the clientele of SFRC where people will come in and it's almost you don't know who to satisfy because people come here, it's like, hey, I want a Ghost all black, and then sometimes you don't carry black because there's other people that are like, don't you have any other color but black? So it's like it becomes, you can't be something for everybody.
That's fair.
But I think so you'll see it in a lot of shoe companies, trail shoes or road shoes, where they'll release like really bright packages, really cool designs and stuff like that. But then they'll release like all black ones, all white ones, really kind of the simple stuff. So they have a model that everyone likes, and they have colorways for pretty much any taste that you might have. I think again, it's a really good time to be alive as a trail runner because there's just so many options at our disposal, and like every shoe does so well. And there's not this like war of arms as road shoes where like for like a road marathon shoe, the Nike Alphafly or Vaporfly is kind of,
You have to.
exactly. It's like to the point where athletes are sponsored by other companies will secretly wear their like Nike shoes and just like kind of scratch out the logo.
Oh,
and stuff.
really?
Yeah.
Funny.
You see that less in trail running because it's like a sponsored athlete won't have any trouble wearing their company's shoe because a lot of these trail companies or a lot of these companies are making trail shoes. They make shoes that just do well enough, and you can always find like ways to like tweak their shoe and make it work for you for like an ultra, and
Definitely.
which is kind of counterintuitive because like if you're saying that like there's a shoe that I kind of like but don't super like and I'm gonna run 100 miles in them, it seems like a risk to take. But the nice thing about ultras as compared to like roads is like shoe changes.
Yeah, I was
You can
gonna
always
say
do shoe
change.
changes.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work for you for 20 miles, try the next 30 miles in a different shoe. So
That's kind of wild to think about.
yeah. For trail or for roads, not the case.
Yeah.
Like not the shoe that you're wearing, they're gonna go start line to the finish line in that shoe. So yeah.
Very cool. You're talking about how excited you are about the time we're in, the amount of features that these shoes have these days. What is one of the most exciting new features of trail running shoes that you're seeing come out in the industry that is like interesting to you?
That's a good question. I'm really liking shoes that are using BOA, and they use the double BOA dials. Speedland does it probably the best. They use dials. I think it's called like the L1 or L2 from BOA. BOA's the company. You can twist it both directions, which is really cool. Because
And it tightens both ways?
so it tightens. So it's weird because like you pull out the dial, and that's how you loosen the laces. And then once you stick it in, it just kind of locks there. So every other shoe company that use BOA, it only goes one direction. But when you lock it in with the Speedland shoes, you can tighten it. But if you're like, I kind of want it incrementally a little looser, you can kind of go the other way without disengaging it. There's a lot of feedback about BOA where if you hit it on a rock, it just breaks and suddenly you don't have a lacing system. I was in Washington and I ran in the Speedland SLPDX, which is their first version of their shoe, and I knocked a rock and it hit the dial out. And I was like, wait, the shoe is it was like close to $400. Like the shoe's just done? Like is this broken? And then I reached out to them and they're like, oh no, it was designed to disengage. Like, you just stick it back in. I haven't fully tested how durable like BOA dials are, but I've slammed. I have like the Speedlands, I have La Sportiva makes BOA shoes, and I have the Ultra Mont Blanc BOA.
Yeah.
I've knocked those things on some really hard terrain, and they seem to really be good. And I'm really excited about that because it's kind of if you're talking about like outdoors, you're talking about like mountain stuff. Again, having a lockdown on your foot is really important, but also readjusting because you find yourself like if you're kind of through hiking somewhere and you want to hop into an alpine lake, you just take the dials out, kick your shoes off and hop in instead of like undoing the laces. And then another thing that people don't think about is like sometimes you're doing a mountainous race that's really cold and like your hands are just frozen and it won't really work. Easier to dial than it is to tie your shoe.
That's a good idea.
So I think for trails, for trail running shoes, I think the dual BOA dial has been the most exciting thing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, thanks again for joining us for our third episode. Dave, is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
No, I think smash the subscribe button and like button. And this is really fun for us. And I hope, it's teaching people something, and use our comment section to kind of write any questions you might have, maybe some recommendations, and we'll take all the feedback and kind of work towards kind of better content in the future.
Hell yeah. And again, thanks. All right, we haven't done this yet, but thanks SFRC for letting us do this at their store location. And if you need any shoes, as you can see, they have all the options.
Yeah, this is not our closet. This is SFRC's shoe wall.
Yeah, so come here, knowledgeable staff, they can help you out. more so than we can on these video things. But do leave us questions in the comments.
Yeah.
All right, see you next time, y'all. Bye-bye.